United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I know it.
And we do have a quorum. Commissioners, if you've had a moment to review the minutes for last month, any additions, deletions?
I make a motion for approval.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a properly made second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Minutes are approved. Mr. Tyndall?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We do have quite a few deferrals in front of us today. Before I start, I would like to invite anyone who owns property, owns a business, or lives downtown tonight at 6 p.m. in this room. We're going to have the kickoff meeting for our downtown historic and downtown overlay district rewrite. We have some consultants that were in town yesterday and today, and they're going to walk us through updating that code for the downtown area. So if you are interested, come back here between 6 o'clock. We'll kick off. Probably wouldn't last an hour, and they'll do their thing and start gathering opinions as they work on that project this year. All right, if you're following along on your agendas, most of these should be marked deferred, but I'll read them into the record. The first case today, under the first page, Z3 2025, application of Bill Mace. Request for C4 to C2 is deferred 1 month. On the next page, case number 4, Z7 2025, application of Rita Home Builders, R2 to R4 on Concord Drive, deferred 1 month. To the next page, number 6, case Z9 2025, application of Hunter Wynn, R1 to R2A. On South Sladen Circle will be deferred 1 month. The following case is number 7, Z10 2025, application of Hunter Wynn from R1A to C2 on Tiny Town Road and Pembroke Road, deferred 1 month. Over to page 5. What am I missing? 10. Z13 2025, application of David Merrill, R1A to C5 on Tiny Town and Tobacco Road. And number 12, Z15 2025, New Visions renovations, R4 to R2A on East Fork Drive, also deferred. Now, skipping ahead to the site reviews. SR 70 on page 10. SDRA Holdings LLC, Pembroke Speculative Warehouses. Yeah, I'll go to that one. SDRA Holdings, Pembroke Speculative Warehouses are deferred 1 month. Over to page 12. Number 32, SR 12 2025, Brian Johnson for Johnson Self Storage on Dover Road, deferred 1 month.
Page 11.
What about 30?
SR 10, thank you. Number 30, we have a lot, we don't usually have this many pages. SR 10 2025, Atlas Coffee number 2 on Fort Campbell Boulevard, deferred 1 month. Back on track, number 33, SR 13, application of Chris Blackwell for the Willow Condos at Madison, deferred 1 month. Number 36, SR 17 2025, Gracie General Partnership for the Joseph, deferred 1 month. That's because it did not pass the Common Design Review Board yesterday, so it gives them an opportunity if they do make any corrections. And also at the bottom of that page, AB1 2025, Kirkland Unnamed Alley off Woodmont Boulevard, that has been withdrawn.
Which one did he just say?
And Mr. Chairman, I did miss one, Z04, that's the electronic message boards. Zoning ordinance update on page 6, also deferred. So they're on the record, and we're asking you to defer those all 1 month to next month.
Oh, can I get a motion for the
So
deferrals,
moved.
please?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes.
this one.
No more announcements.
All right. I just want to remind everybody as we get started here today that, this body provides recommendations to the city council and the county commission on these zoning cases. So, if it passes or if it fails here, you need to follow it to the city or county for final hearing. Also, as we're going through the cases today, there'll be an opportunity for a public hearing. 3 people are allowed to get up and speak in favor, 3 can speak against, and then there'll be an opportunity for a rebuttal as well. To back up a little bit, the city and county commission meetings are also on your agendas for today, as far as time and that sort of thing. Without further ado, we will get started.
All right, commissioners. First case in front of you today is Z5 2025. This is the application of the Regional Planning Commission. And this was brought forward to the Regional Historic Commission last month. It was deferred a month at the Planning Commission last month to have a public meeting on February 5th. We did have a public info session here at the Planning Commission, which was attended by several people, and we got to explain a little more about what this is about. This project is about expanding the H1 Historic Overlay District at the request of the Regional Historic Commission back from the fall of last year, to encompass these properties in the downtown area that are currently under the downtown urban design overlay. The long and short of it, commissioners, is that at the time, the Regional Historic Commission felt that these properties are historic. I don't think there's a debate on that from most folks that we talk to, but they don't have the quote protection of the H1 district. In light of what's going on right now with the rewrite that I spoke about that's kicking off tonight with our consultants in town. The Regional Historic Commission did hear this yesterday. They conducted a public hearing. There was no motion, no second, so there's no recommendation from the Regional Historic Zoning Commission on this application. We are, like I said, working with the consultants on updating both chapters 9.3 and 9.5 of the code. And I would ask you to defer this indefinitely until that is completed and we bring back the code with this at a later point for public hearing and consideration, likely later in 2025.
Move for deferral, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Do we have to have
No. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
And the only reason I didn't do that at the start of the meeting, that's a different deferral than 30 days. I just wanted to explain why. We'll bring that back later. If it does come back up, there will be notifications again and a public hearing held at that point.
Question. We'll have to bring that back up since we indefinitely deferred it, correct?
Deferred it until such point that we need it, when the code is done.
But the motion was to defer indefinitely. But this is a Robert's Rules of Order
Okay.
question. I believe we'll have to bring it back up first.
Yes. It'll be brought up by this board at a point in the future,
Okay.
when needed. I don't know if that's gonna be September, October, November, December, so it's hard to say. I don't wanna do it month after month after month and keep this going.
Okay.
Okay. I understand what you're saying.
All right, the next case we have is Z6 2025. Application of Rita Home Builders Incorporated, requested to go from R4 Multiple Family Residential District to R2A Single Family Residential District. This is for a parcel of land fronted on the north frontage of Airport Road, approximately 155 feet east of the eastern intersection of Airport Road and Tandy Drive. This request encompasses just shy of half an acre at .43. Stated reason for this request by the applicant is R4 is unsuitable for lot size and R2A is better suited for future development. The lot's described as a narrow level residential lot with 2 street frontages at the front and back. It is in the North Clarksville planning area. Department comments that received, the street department indicated that improvement to the public right-of-way would be required to access to Tandy Drive. It is in the future land use designation of an urban neighborhood. Staff's recommendation is for approval. The request is consistent with the overall goals and objectives of the adopted Clarksville-Montgomery County Comprehensive Plan. The proposed R2A request affords the applicant the opportunity to construct a single-family home at each street frontage with appropriate approvals. No adverse environmental issues have been identified as part of this request. I believe 32 and 33 on those pages are the aerial overviews of the request. The request is crosshatched, and then the next page shows the crosshatch on the zoning map as it sits directly adjacent to the R4 property. There's been no public comments made in reference to this application. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, commissioners, any questions for staff? All right, we'll go into public hearing. Anyone wish to speak in favor of Z6 2025?
Hi, my name's Ricky Rita with Rita Homes. I'm asking for your favor here on this vote, and it sounds like it's theirs. Have any questions, we're here.
Anyone else wish to speak in favor of Z6 2025? All right, anyone like to speak against Z6 2025? All right, seeing none, we're gonna move out of public hearing and back into regular session, commissioners.
Move for approval. Based on consistent with overall goals and objectives of the Clarksville-Montgomery County Comprehensive Plan.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Next.
Your next application starts on the next page of your staff report. Z8 2025 is the application of Infinity Investments LLC. The request is to go from R1 Single Family Residential District to R6 Single Family Residential District. And it's for a parcel located on the southeast corner of Hillsborough Road and Binks Drive. The reason listed on the application by the applicant is for future building. It is just under half an acre at 0.45 plus or minus. It's a residential lot where there was a single-family home that was recently demolished, and a detached garage remains on site. Street Department indicated that with approval of this request, sidewalks will be required. Driveway spacing and placement must comply with the city access ordinance. Historical estimates would indicate 6 lots. It is in the Lafayette Peters Mill planning area. Future land use map indicates this is a suburban neighborhood. The staff recommendation is for disapproval. The request is not consistent with the overall goals and objectives of the adopted Clarksville-Montgomery County Comprehensive Plan. The proposal is internal to an established R1 single-family subdivision. Increases in residential density are most appropriate along the outer edges of existing neighborhoods and as transitions to and buffers to more intense uses. Residential zone change internal to a subdivision should be more gradual by nature. The proposed zone change from R1 to R6 reduces the minimum lot sizes from 15,000 square feet to 2,500 square feet. Lot width from 90 feet to 25 feet. This would not be consistent with the overall development pattern internal to the subdivision. No adverse environmental issues have been identified as part of this request. The next two are the aerial overviews of the property currently on the screen. Then you have a zoning map on page 40 with the cross-hatched area of the request. There's been phone calls in reference to this application, but no formal comment logged. So if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to try to answer them.
All right, commissioners. Well,
We'll
one
have
moment.
There'll be a public hearing.
Any questions, commissioners, for staff? All right, we'll go into a public hearing. Would anybody like to speak in favor of Z8 2025? One minute, I'll get there. All right, doesn't look like anyone wants to speak in favor. Anyone like to speak against Z8 2025, please? Yes. Come on up, please. One at a time.
Hello, my name is Elska Fraser. I live on Del Terrace, which is just one street over. And this is a subdivision. We have apartments all up and down Peters Mill Road. And I think it would be a problem, first of all, with parking. Then people would be parked all over the place, and it's not. And the second concern is we are still connected to the old substation with lights. My side of Del Terrace, Hillsborough, and further. Every time we don't have no lights. And this would put another strain on it. And I wish they would reconsider and leave it R1. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Would anyone else like to speak against Z8 2025?
I'm Helga Ritchie. I've lived at 35 Hillsborough Road for 64 years, and I'm totally against it because once it gets started, I'm afraid there's going to be more readings about it and maybe approvals, which I hope not. But this is a single-family lot, and it should not have apartments on it. And like my neighbors suggested, when our electric grid is so old, and I have spoken to my council person, and we've talked to the city about our problem, and they said, well, everything is old, we can't help it. We have a storm, or we have wind, or even just blue sky. The electricity goes off. I cannot depend on my electricity. My son, who lives across town, he says, Mom, it's like you're living in a third world. I'll call him up and say, Michael, here it is, blue sky, I'm sitting here, I got no electricity. Now, how are they going to supply it to even more people? And, you know, it just don't seem feasible unless the whole system has to be replaced. The subdivision is old. Dalewood is older than Bel Air. And everything just needs to be redone. So we are totally against this. Thank you very much.
Did you move here when you were 7 years old, ma'am? Ma'am?
Thank you, ma'am. We have room for one more against, if anybody would like to speak against.
I'm Doris Gentry, and I lived there over 60 years in Dale Terrace, right behind that street. And I'm against it because I like it the way it is now, just a subdivision, no apartments. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All righty, commissioners, back into regular session.
I'd like to make a motion for disapproval based on the proposal being internal to an established R1 single-family subdivision and residential zone changes. Internal to a subdivision should be more gradual by nature.
Second.
Can I add one thing to
Yes,
that?
ma'am, go ahead.
I just want to clarify for the individuals, and obviously I just made a motion for disapproval, but R6 is single family, so it's not apartments. What they're proposing is single family homes that's just much smaller. The lot would be much smaller in nature than what is for R1, and I just wanted that for you in case you come speak at the city council meeting. Thank you.
All right.
All closed.
We have a motion and a second for disapproval. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any against? All right, motion fails.
All right. Page 41 of your staff report's the next application. The application is Z11 2025. It's the application of Mike Greenfield. The request is to go from C5 Highway and Arterial Commercial District to M1 Light Industrial District. It's for a tract of land south of Ashland City Road and Chesterfield Drive intersection. The owner stated for their request, the owner is having to move the contractor's building location due to fire loss. In the current zoning manual, construction contractor is designated as an M1 per table 3.4.7. This request encompasses 8.7 plus or minus acres. Proposed to go to M1 Light Industrial. It is in the Sango planning area. The department comments that were received in reference to this case indicates the property is largely in a FEMA designated flood zone AE, which may limit the property use. The wall branch was identified by TDEC as an impaired stream. There were no other departments of any concern. I will state the impact for M1 zoning is potential increase for truck traffic, noise, dust, and light. Access for this property is off 41A bypass. Future land use designation map indicates both commercial and industrial hybrid on the north and suburban neighborhood south. When we look at the map here just in a moment for the zoning, I'll explain something a little further. The staff is recommending approval. This request is consistent with the overall goals and objectives of the adopted Clarkson-Montgomery County Comprehensive Plan. The future land use opinion map inadvertently divides this applicant's property along an undeveloped right-of-way that the applicant plans to apply for abandonment in the near future. That will show up on the zoning map a little clearer. The future land use identified for this property is commercial industrial hybrid. The M1 light industrial zoning classification is the appropriate zoning classification for the parcel. While the zoning request continues to the south border of this parcel, there's a natural buffer between the developable area and the residential properties to the south, identified as the Wall Branch and associated FEMA designation zone. The next two maps are the aerial overviews of the property. Page 46 is the zoning map overview of the property. As you can see, the area of the aerial that shows through, that's the undeveloped right-of-way that if this case passes or whether or not it does, the abandonment that would pull those zone lines to fill that gap. There's been no calls or questions in reference to this application, but if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to try to answer them for you.
Commissioners, any questions before we go into public hearing? All right, we're gonna go into public hearing on Z11 2025. Would anyone like to speak in favor?
Good afternoon. I'm Brad Weekly with Weekly Brothers Engineering at 108 Centerpoint Drive. Just as was stated, Mr. Greenfield's office or contracting building was burnt, and where he was leasing that from asked not to renew the lease, so he needed to move. After discussion with building codes, this is the zone that is required for contractor's office. So that's why we're here for that zoning. If you have any other questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, would anyone else like to speak in favor of Z11 2025? All right, seeing none, would anyone like to speak against Z11 2025? All right, leaving public hearing, we're gonna go back into regular session, commissioners.
Move for approval of the future land use identified for this property as commercial industrial hybrid. The M1 light industrial zoning classification is the appropriate zoning classification for this parcel.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any against? All right, motion passes. Z11 2025 passes.
Commissioners, if you'll turn to page 47 of your staff report, you'll have Z12 2025. It's the application of Hunter Wynn. The request is to go from R1A single family residential to R2A single family residential district. Location is west of Summerfield Drive, south of Barbie Lane, and north of the Silver Star Drive. The request encompasses 0.39 plus or minus acres. The reason for this request stated by the applicant is looking to go from 1 to 2 lots. It is in the North Clarksville planning area. It's a residential building lot with a detached structure on site. There were no department comments of any concern listed. Historical estimates would indicate this being divided to 2 lots. The staff recommendation is for disapproval. The request is not consistent with the overall goals and objectives of the adopted Clarksville-Montgomery County Comprehensive Plan. The proposal is internal to an established R1A single-family subdivision. Increases in residential density are most appropriate along the outer edges of existing neighborhoods as transitions and buffers to more intense uses. The proposed zone change from R1A to R2A reduces the minimum lot size and lot width in half and would not be in character with the overall development pattern of the surrounding properties. Residential zone changes internal to a subdivision should be more gradual by nature. No adverse environmental issues have been identified as part of this request. The next 2 pages are aerial overviews of the request. And the final one is the zoning map overview of the request. We've received no formal public comment in reference to this application, and if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to try to answer them.
Any questions, commissioners? All right, we're gonna go into public hearing. Would anyone like to speak in favor of Z12 2025? Good afternoon, sir. Please state your name and your address.
Hunter Wynn, I reside at 540 Georgetown Road. Just looking to go from one lot to two lot, if possible.
Anything else?
No, sir.
Okay, any questions for him? Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak in favor of Z12 2025? Would anyone like to speak against Z12 2025? All right, seeing none, we're gonna move back into regular session, commissioners.
Move for disapproval, the proposed zone change from R1A to R2A reduces the minimum lot sizes and lot width in half and would not be in character with overall development pattern of the surrounding properties.
We have a motion, is
Second.
there a second? All right, we have a motion and a second, all those in favor? Against?
Aye.
Can we do, hands for the in favor, please? 1, 2, 3, 4, all right.
You want us to raise our hands?
Yes. Please, no, you're good, I got it now.
No.
Math is hard, all right. The motion, fails for or passes for disapproval, I'm sorry. And that's Z12 2025.
Yes, sir. The next application is Z14 2025, the application of RL Home LLC. The request is to go from RM1 Single Family Mobile Home Residential District to R4 Multiple Family Residential District, south of Britton Springs Road and east of Center Road. The reason for the request stated by the applicant is to match the R4 and provide the highest and best use and possibly build a triplex. This encompasses right at a third of an acre at 0.35 plus or minus. It's an existing residential mobile home lot. It is in the Lafayette Peters Mill planning area. Just to make sense of the map, when you look at it, this property is right on the city line of the city limits, actually served by a county road, and the property itself is within the city limits. That road being Center Road. The future land use opinion map indicates this is a suburban neighborhood. The staff's recommendations for approval. The request is consistent with the overall goals and objectives of the adopted Clarksville-Montgomery County Comprehensive Plan. This parcel is shown as part of the suburban neighborhood future land use. While predominant use is moderate density single-family residential, this request is adjacent to a new multi-family residential development, replaces aging housing stock, and increases the housing options in a planning area without negatively affecting the character. It is encouraged to maintain a desirable mixture of housing stock for the planning area. There's been no environmental issues identified as part of this request. The next 2 pages are the aerial overviews with the property shown crosshatched. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to try to answer them.
All right, commissioners, any questions before we go into public hearing?
I just want to, is this the area that was affected by the tornado, this particular part of Britton Springs?
Actually, if you'll take that bottom aerial, or the top aerial, the bottom half of that screen is where it's at. So this property wasn't directly affected, but it does show on the bottom half going kind of down there where it says RM3, or R3 and the RM1. It's at the aerial's at the bottom of that.
Across that man's road.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we're gonna move into public hearing. Would anyone like to speak in favor of Z14 2025?
Hey guys, Jonathan Blick, 2015 Mossy Oak Circle. I'm here on behalf of RL Homes. He has a little bit of a language barrier, so he asked me to step in for him today. You know, we're just continuing the development of Center Road. We've already developed maybe 10 or 11 properties on Center Road. So this is actually going to be the first one in the city limits that we've done. The rest of them have been in the county. We're just looking to match what we've already done, which is triplexes on those. So the first 11 or so that we've done have been triplexes, and this would be the same. Of course, the density does allow for more, but we're not looking to get more. Just like the other lots, it's just easier to do a triplex, and then also resale value is about matched. So I'd take any questions for me or on behalf of RL Homes. So
Questions? Thank you, sir.
thank you all.
Would anyone else like to speak in favor of Z14 2025? All right. Seeing none, would anyone like to speak against Z14 2025? All right, we'll go back into regular session. Commissioners?
Move for approval based on the consistency with the overall goals and objectives of the adopted Clarksville Montgomery County Comprehensive Plan.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any against? All right, motion passes. Z14 2025 passes.
All right. Commissioners, we talked about this one at the informal, but I got a late email from the city mayor asking that this be deferred a month. As you know, the city's gone through quite a bit this last week and a half, and the mayor would just like another month before this comes before city council. So we will hold a public hearing next month on this case, but wanted to explain why this one was getting deferred as well. So if we could have a 1 month deferral on Z03 2024, I'd appreciate it.
I make a motion for deferral for 1 month.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any against? All right, Z03 2024 is deferred.
All right, Commissioners, I'll give you just a second. If you'll close out your city zoning tab and go to your county zoning tab, we have 3 cases in the unincorporated area of Montgomery County. First one being CZ1 2025. It's the application of Ronnie Nicholson, care of Ann Swain. Request is to go from AG Agricultural District to R1A Single Family Residential District. This is north and east of Kirkwood Road and west and south of Buck Road. The reason stated for the application is by the applicant is to provide an extension of single-family housing within the UGB, slightly more dense, to provide much-needed housing near the growing industrial park. Public utilities are available nearby in the newly developed Wellington Field subdivision. This request encompasses 95.7 plus or minus acres. It's currently like farmland with rolling hills. It is in the growth plan of the UGB and the Rossview planning area. Department comments are received. Gas and water indicated no gravity sewer available. Possible water main extension upgrades required. The Montgomery County Highway Department stated that they would like to coordinate and with the developer to reserve right-of-way for the future Kirkwood Road improvements. But there's no other public or department comments that were received. Properties accessed from Kirkwood Road, historical estimates is 268 lots. As stated earlier, it is in the Rossview planning area. Future land use opinion map indicates that it's rural reserve. The staff's recommendation is for disapproval. The request is not consistent with the overall goals and objectives of the adopted Clarksville Montgomery County Comprehensive Plan. The future land use map lists this tract as rural reserved. The proposed R1A single-family residential district does not align with the rural reserve designation for this property. While the tract is within the UGB, which is the urban growth boundary, the general recommendations of the Rossview planning area indicate that residential development should be paced to limit sprawl outside the city limits of Clarksville. Rossview Road, which is State Route 237, widening and alignment improvements are pending with existing preliminary approved projects awaiting the construction of this project being the road widening. No adverse environmental issues have been identified as relative to this request. The next 2 slides are the aerial overview of the request, with the request shown crosshatched, and a zoning map overview of the request. We have had individuals contact our office with questions. No one's left a formal written comment, but some did express the desire to be at the meeting today. If you have any questions for myself or the staff, I'll be more than happy to try to answer them.
Would it have been any difference on a recommendation if it'd been moved to like R1, agriculture to R1, based on the lot size?
That's a fair question. I can say that it's not something that was debated during the staff's discussion, but I will say what the overall sentiment, I think, involves. You have multiple pending developments out in this area. There's a PUD that is currently phased with limited development opportunity until Rossview Road is widened. There's an adjacent or nearby single-family development that is paced that cannot go beyond the first phase for its lot development until Rossview Road is widened. And in past legal recommendations, when you have issues with road infrastructure and things of that nature, while the future land use may make sense for this property, it's not encouraged to change the land use until the infrastructure can support it. So we have a pending project. We hope it stays on the timeline to get done. I will say that that project has recently been notified of delays, and from a staff standpoint, I think the recommendation could be different if that roadway project maybe was underway. But we're still waiting for the widening project. So,
Can we talk about what rural reserves means for the public and for some of us up here?
Sure. When you talk about the land use plan, it's broken down into multiple different areas. Rural reserve is what the overwhelming size or description of outside the city limits becomes. It's supposed to be very limited, small-scale development for residential and limited commercial. If that, it's supposed to maintain the rural character of the area.
Okay.
While this is in the UGB, we do have multiple properties that exist that are either already currently zoned or in development or not zoned within that barrier already. So let's say our comprehensive plan goes through an annual review. We're in the process of working on that now. And if this area had reached capacity or been paced and the improvements like to the roadway and things had been accomplished, then it's not unlikely for that rural reserved issue or matter to be removed from that and the land use designation go a little further.
Okay.
But we're not at that point.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions, commissioners? All right, we're gonna move into public hearing. Anyone like to speak in favor of CZ 1 2025?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I'm Stanley Ross, 308 South 2nd Street, here on behalf of the applicant and developers. We are just asking the application is for Ag to R1A. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, would anyone else like to speak in favor of CZ 1 2025? All right, seeing none, would anyone like to speak against CZ 1 2025? All right, seeing no one, we'll move back into regular session, commissioners.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask another question.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
So are we going, as far as rezoning out in that area based on this project and everything, are we gonna need to hold back on rezoning a lot until this project is completed or to well started, or I don't mean to ask you a trick question, you know, but based on the project and everything, you know, we're just gonna stop developing out that way?
Generically, I would say this: we review every case based on its own merit when it comes in. We do encourage individuals before they apply to come in and speak to review the comprehensive plan that's available online. Schedule an appointment, come in and talk with us, and we can talk through the issues that we see that may exist. This is an area that is under development pressure. We do see that, but we also see that we are at a point for some members of the commission. We've got developments that we've recommend disapproval of or postponement of. This board has already phased multiple developments. So I would say we're at a point now that it's probably not a good idea to keep piling on more zones, because once that's zoned, you're gonna see applications for development come in, and then you're gonna be back to what level of phase are you willing to give that project, or you just put it on hold as well, so,
Yeah, I'm certainly not arguing with you.
Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate y'all's expertise. And, you know, just for a guy like me to explain it to me, you know, why. And I certainly don't judge your expertise, and I appreciate the job that you do.
okay, thank you. I will also add this. Our recommendation is obviously spoken to the public. What the board action occurs after this statement or point will be something that becomes public record as well. And if it continues on to the county commission, the decision that board makes will be public, and we'll decide as well. We would also share that with anybody who came in and interjected an idea of rezoning in these areas. So we're all multiple pieces of a decision, I guess I will say.
I guess I'd forgotten, you know, with them coming in and you explaining and everything. I forgot that, you know, particular, the meetings that y'all do have, and that's good that you have.
Any more discussion?
I make a motion for disapproval based on the tract being listed in the rural reserved, and the R1 single family residential district does not align with that designation, and that the general recommendations for the Rossview planning area indicate that residential development should be paced to limit sprawl outside the city limits of Clarksville.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second for disapproval. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? All right, motion passes for disapproval.
Note I abstain.
Yes, sir.
Commissioners, your next application is Z2 2025. It is on page 7 of the county staff report. CZ2 2025 is the application of Carol Jackson Houston and M. Ireland LLC. Request is to go from AG Agricultural District to R1 Single Family Residential District. This property is south of Old Dover Court, east of Ross Lane. Reason for the request stated by the applicant, there was not one provided. However, the R1 designation is for single-family residential development. This does encompass 76.2 plus or minus acres. It's currently described as farmland in Rolling Hills. It is in the planning area of Woodlawn, Dodsonville. Department comments received. Woodlawn Utility District will approve 141 water meters for CZ2 2025. Potential road improvements, or the County Highway Department stated potential road improvements to Old Dover Road and Old Dover Court may be needed. That would be reviewed at development time if this were to pass. This will allow for increased single-family residential density. I will note we have had preliminary discussions with, in reference to transportation and road access, while Old Dover Court and access to development to the east, TDOT has verbally granted or future crossing of TDOT 374 right-of-way, which would be the eastern boundary or the right-hand side of this request, to give them access to the adjoining development, which I believe is Ireland Fields. Historical estimates is 148 lots. It is in the Woodlawn-Dottsville planning area under rural reserve. Staff recommendation is for approval. The request is consistent with the overall goals and objectives of the adopted Clarksville-Montgomery County Comprehensive Plan. The future land use for this tract is listed as rural reserve. This designation was applied so that the future 374 right-of-way could be identified and inquired free of encroachment. Recent discussion with TDOT officials have noted that the residential development can occur with a crossing of 374. The proposed R1 single-family residential request is in character with the recent development pattern to the east and paced accordingly as it's directly adjacent to the recently developed, I had it named wrong, Cherry Fields. The general recommendations for the Woodlawn-Dotsonville planning area states that residential development should be focused in proximity to rural commercial nodes, such as the one identified on the future land use opinion map for this area, which is directly north of this site. No adverse environmental issues have been identified as part of this request. Page 10 and 11 are the aerial overviews of the request. And then the next page is a zoning overview of the request. We've received no calls or questions in reference to this request. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to try to answer them.
Commissioners, any questions for staff before we open it up? All right, we're gonna open up CZ 2/2025 for public hearing. Anyone like to speak in favor?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Vernon Weekly, 108 Center Point Drive. I'd be glad to answer any questions, and appreciate the support by the planning staff on this, and would appreciate your vote also. And do you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to speak in favor of CZ 2/2025? Come on up, sir.
I'm Kurt Scheller, and I own the property at property right in front of this on Old Dover Road. And then it parallels Ross Lane. I'd like to know, they're talking about access to this property, and are they going to go right Ross Lane right through my property with sewer, water, and fire? Or are they going to go down Ross Lane and do something there?
Are you speaking in favor or against?
I'm in favor.
Okay.
I'll try to answer that. This is just the zoning of the land, so if this goes to the county commission and passes, they will have to come back with a subdivision plan. You'll get did you get a letter in the mail about this one?
Yes.
All right, you'll get a letter about when the subdivision comes back, and that's when the access will be more worked out. They do have the opportunity to come off Old Dover Road. They do also have the opportunity to go to the east towards South Liberty Church Road as well. We would anticipate probably both of those being an option. There's also the potential of a Ross Lane connection should one of those lots become available. We don't know yet exactly what that is. The applicant may come up in rebuttal and help clarify that out, or you can talk with the engineer after the meeting here and see what they want to do. But there are a couple options, but if Old Dover Road is used, it would be improved around that intersection for this.
Thank you.
Welcome, sir. Would anyone else like to speak in favor of CZ 2/2025? All right, seeing none, would anyone like to speak against CZ 2/2025? All right, we're gonna move back into regular session, commissioners.
Move for approval of ZZ 0225 based on the consistency with the overall goals and objectives of the adopted Clarksville Montgomery County Comprehensive Plan.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any against? All right, motion passes. CZ 2/2025 passes.
Commissioners, you have one final county zoning case. It's CZ 3/2025. It's the application of Leonard and Angela Carter. The agent is Larry Ricconi. The property encompasses right at 3/4 of an acre. It's west of Highway 48, east of Moody Road. The reason for this application stated by the applicant is the property is currently under split zone, same being in RM2 that previously contained a mobile home, which has since been removed, and a portion being R2, which contains a single-family residential home. The applicant intends to convert the improvement to a hair salon, providing haircutting and associated services. This activity is identified as a barber and beauty shop, which is permitted in C2 zoning. Property adjoins existing C2 property, and there's existing C2 property across Highway 48. As described, it's currently a residential home site. It is in the Cumberland South River planning area. There were no department comments of any concern received in reference to this application. As with most commercial zones, it would have an increased traffic light and noise for the property. designation as rural reserve as the future land use. The staff is recommending approval. The request is consistent with the overall goals and objectives of the adopted Clarksville-Montgomery County Comprehensive Plan. The C2 general commercial request is an extension of an established commercial node of C2 zoning, and there's been no environmental issues identified in reference to this request. You have two zoning map overviews of this request. It's located just south of the crossroads there. And then the last page is a zoning map overview where you can see a clear node of C2 on all the road frontages in the area. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to try to answer them for you.
Commissioners, any questions for staff? All right, we're going to move into the public hearing. Would anyone like to speak in favor of CZ 3/2025?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Stanley Ross on behalf of the applicant. Mr. and Ms. Carter do express their regret that they're not able to be here today. We are asking to go to C2 General Commercial District. We had asked for approval based on the fact that this is an extension of a contiguous unit. We are moving from a split zone to for this property to one single zone. They plan on using the building that's there for their salon barber shop that they're planning on opening up, so there's not any intent for additional construction, and there would be two different entrance exits to this property. Based on that, we would ask for approval. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them as best as I can.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, would anyone else like to speak in favor of CZ 3/2025? All right, would anyone like to speak against Z3 2025, CZ3 2025? All right, seeing none, moving back in regular session.
Move for approval of CZ03 2025 based on the request is consistent with the overall goals and objectives of the adopted Clarksville-Montgomery County Comprehensive Plan.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and properly made second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Motion passes. Moving on to variances.
Yes, Chairman, if Commissioners, if you would open up to the subdivision tab on your tablet. We have two variances today, as is our typical procedure. We will hear and vote on the variances first, and then we will build the consent agenda for the remaining subdivision cases based on the outcome of those variance hearings. So the first one up today is V2 2025 Ligon Home Builders, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Parker.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tyndall. Commissioners, V2 2025, the applicant is Ligon Home Builders LLC. As stated, this is a subdivision variance request. The property is located west of Bell Road and north of Needmore Road. The corresponding subdivision case is case number S11 2025, which is Gold Landing subdivision. The variance requested is the applicant has requested a variance from section 4.121A. Each subdivision shall continue all public streets and roads stubbed to the boundary of the development plan by previously approved built and unbuilt active subdivisions, which would require the proposed subdivision to connect to Ann Drive, to connect Ann Drive to Bell Road. You can see in the next section the justification provided by the applicant. The following section is the staff's conclusion. I'll read that into the record. Approval of the variance request would result in decreased connectivity for residents to access nearby goods and services, which will lead to increased duration and length of trips. Decreasing local connections within Clarksville-Montgomery County reduces opportunities for right-of-way users to select logical, safe, and convenient routes. The Clarksville-Montgomery Comprehensive Plan is clear in its policy statement to guide planning decisions toward a safe multimodal transportation system that promotes connectivity, enhances walkability, creates route options, and reduces emergency response times. Reducing connectivity below the mandated minimum requirements should be carefully considered. The following section is the staff review of the variance application, which provides a little more detailed information in regards to the staff's comments. On page 3, you'll see the department comments page. I'll point out the street department indicated that Bell Road will require improvements if a road connection is established. In fire and rescue, said per previously submitted and approved plans, connectivity to Bell Road is recommended. The following 2 pages, then we get into the proposed variance exhibit. It shows where a connection to Bell Road would be located. And then the next page is the previously approved subdivision of Gold Landing, which showed a connection to Bell Road, including an additional parcel that has been left off of this. Following few pages are a few emails that we've received from residents. Some of those are both to the variance and the subdivision, along with some pictures provided by the residents. And if there's any questions for the staff, I'll be happy to try and answer those. Otherwise, we will need a public hearing.
Yes, sir. Commissioners, any questions for staff? Ms. Treatman?
I have a question, and I was trying to pull it back up. I should have already had it pulled up, and I apologize. But when this was previously zoned, what was the statement at that time even by the street department? And I apologize. I know it says on here, their department comments now are Bell Road will require improvements if a road connection is established.
Are you asking when it was first brought up for rezoning?
When it was first brought
Or
up for
for-
rezoning and presented to the city council for a vote. And if you don't have that answer, I apologize. I can keep looking for the next moment anyway.
I want to say the comment at the time was very similar to what it said now, that if connected to Bell Road, improvements to Bell Road would be required. Or paraphrasing that, that's as close as we remember. That's going back 6 or 7 months now.
No, and I apologize. I just wanted to ask that question, so I'll allow the next part and I'll wait and say something in a minute.
Commissioners, anything else before we get started? All right, we're going to go into public hearing for V2 2025. Would anyone like to speak in favor?
Good afternoon. I'm Cal Birch with McKay Birch and Company, 1545 Madison Street. As stated, I mean, this did receive previous approval, and I'll let the applicant, Mr. Ligon, maybe speak more on how we got here, and he doesn't have control over that property that we were using to connect to Bell Road. It sounds like the departments, fire department and street department, are not requiring the connection. They're okay with, you know, they didn't state they're okay with this as far as it's not required. So we asked the same thing, not required at this time. We are stubbing to the neighboring property. If that can ever be obtained, it could be connected to at a later date. We cannot connect it to it right now because of the subdivision regulations. If you can see, it's kind of a strange dog leg, and without control over the neighboring property, we couldn't meet the subdivision regulations and connect to the existing Bell Road. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I know this is a little confusing and we've been here before.
Questions, Commissioner? Thank you, sir.
Yep.
All right, would anyone else like to speak in favor of V2 2025?
Good afternoon, Calvin Liggins, 676 Johnson Street. How's everybody doing this evening? Good. I bought this piece of property back in May. Got it rezoned last January. Bell Road widening was one of the requirements. Gained control of the property to the west and everything else down Bell Road, but it was turned down for rezoning back in January. And the passing of that rezoning would allow me to gain control of the property and widen Bell Road on this first phase, like everyone had agreed in the beginning. But now that I don't have control over the rest of the property, only control of what I got, just looking to get this variance approved so we could start with the development. A year or so later, come back and try to obtain the other property and widen Bell Road. Anyone got any questions?
Questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak in favor of V2 2025?
Jonathan Blake, 2015 Mossy Oak Circle. As you guys know, me and Calvin have been working on this for quite some time. We've been trying to get this subdivision built and get these families in these houses that need them so much. We're just trying to make this work with what we've been dealt by the city council, of course, on the rezoning of the other properties. So we're just trying to get to the table with what we promised y'all, which was single-family housing. These are wider lots, a lot less than we originally thought. I think this 46, and maybe we originally asked for 64 lots on the first subdivision drawing. The only way that we could, in my eyes, get away with knocking off this request before you is maybe if we cut that, did a subdivision before this subdivision. If we just cut that parcel off at the bottom, I feel like that would be our way around it. But we feel like this is the best path forward because eventually we think development will have Bell Road widened and connected to the subdivision over time. So, any questions for me? Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. All right, would anyone like to speak against V2 2025? Come on up, sir.
Good afternoon, Brad Morrow. I live on Ann Drive in a beautiful house that your folks built for us about 10 years ago. Thank you. This is, here we are again. I'd like to remind this board that the first time this came up for the zoning, as Councilwoman Streetman talked about earlier, this body actually recommended against the rezoning in the first place, and it was City Council that overrode this body's recommendation and rezoned it for this to begin with. The first developer came through and promised us that they would not try to put a high-density development back there unless they had a guaranteed connection with Bell Road. Then they asked for a variance to get out of it, and it was shot down. And now they're back doing it again. They changed the plat a little bit, asked for, hey, approve this, we'll guarantee a connection to Bell Road, and now they're back doing it again, asking for the variance. You've got flooding issues, you've got traffic issues. The Clarksville Police Department just did a week-long sting operation over there for speeding traffic enforcement right by Glen Ellen Elementary School because people are using the Ann Drive neighborhood as a cut-through to avoid Ronda Roundabout during school hours. If you don't connect these homes through Bell Road to Needmore Drive, Needmore Avenue, you're gonna have problems. It's not appropriate. It sounds like, I don't wanna cast aspersions on the folks that are trying to do this, but it seems like a bunch of bad faith negotiation going on the whole distance. So I'd ask that you deny the variance request and also the revised plat when we come to it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to speak against V2 2025? Come on up, sir.
Thank you for your time today, Commissioner. I appreciate you. My name is John Cristiano. I live at 2794 Ann Drive, right at the end there of Ann Drive, right next to the new plat here. Since we're just speaking about the variance at the moment, I'd just like to speak to the inlet outlets through Ann Drive. It's not, it is kind of a blind corner coming down there, and having almost 50 homes, originally 60. I agree with the TDOT's judgment of needing the connection to Bell Road. There's no feasible reason that bypassing that would be safe, and the liability alone would just be, you can't pass that on to the people of the neighborhood, unfortunately. I'll speak further to the actual subplat when we get to it, but on the variance, I ask you to deny that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to speak against? Mr. Brown?
Good morning. I'm Jimmy Brown. I'm the city councilman for Ward 9, which is a part of this area here.
As one of the previous speakers has mentioned, when they did come for that R3, the first time they stated that they were gonna be widening Bell Road along with this project. Now that they've purchased property across the street from that, and it was denied for the zoning they requested to go to by the city council, now they're wanting a variance for the road because they say they cannot afford to do the road project with this project. If you look at the map, the bottom right corner of it is a part of that parcel and it connects to Bell Road. So they could have a path that goes through there that connects to Bell Road to this subdivision. But instead, they're wanting to put all that traffic back on Ann Drive, which was not the original plan, and they're asking for this variance. So as the councilman for this city ward and the residents have spoken to me about it, I ask that y'all deny the variance and have them go back on the word that they gave you, that they were gonna attach to Bell Road and do some improvements with that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. All right, we will allow one rebuttal if anybody would like to rebut.
Calvin Legan, 676 Johnson Street. It's not a question of whether can afford or not. It's the fact that, is it in my control to widen the road? When the city council turned down the remaining parcels getting rezoned back in January, they kind of upsetted the families, and so now would have to go and get a variance from the Bell family, from Mr. Darrell. I'll have to go and get a variance from, or not a variance, easement, in order to widen the road to take their property. And right now, they don't want no dealings with any of it because the city council. We tried to do it the right way. I came for it. They denied us. They said, go gain control, come back, do the road. We did that. The city council is the one that failed us and turned it down. So that's where we're at today. I've been sitting on this property since May, over $1 million in it, and haven't done anything to it. I've done everything that both parties has asked me, paid my engineer, paid TDEC for the permit. I'm just asking if I can get this variance approved so I can get my property developed and move on. Not sure what neighbors or, that's it. If anybody got any questions, just let me know. Thank you.
All righty, we're gonna leave public hearing and go back into regular session, commissioners.
I make a motion for disapproval based on the public safety aspect of it because of the fact it would not be connecting, and this would put 43 lots with one way in, one way out, in addition to the dozen or so lots that are already there on Ann Drive.
All right, we have a motion for disapproval.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of disapproval?
Aye.
Against disapproval?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion for disapproval passes for V2 2025.
Thank you, Commissioners. Our next variance case is V3 2025. The applicant is Thomas B. LLC. Again, this is a subdivision variance request. The property is located south of and adjacent to Antioch Road and Oak Hill Road intersection on the eastern portion of Highway 48. The corresponding subdivision case is case number S12 2025. I'll read the variance request into the record. It's one variance case number with three separate requests. The first is to 4.191. The length of a cul-de-sac measured from the center line of the intersecting street, road, or permanent easement to the center of the turnaround shall be no longer than 750 feet. The request is to have a cul-de-sac length of 990 feet on Road 1. Second variance, 4.32. No block or block face shall be greater than 1,500 feet in length as measured from the intersecting center lines of one intersection to the other. The request is to exceed the block length of 1,500 feet. We request for a block length of 1,800 feet. Final request, 4.191 again. The length of a cul-de-sac shall not be longer than 750 feet. The request is to have a cul-de-sac length of 947 feet on Road 3. The next section is the justification provided by the applicant. Following is the staff's conclusion. The extension of the block lengths and cul-de-sac for all three roads may reduce emergency response times within the area. The large lot dimensions required in agricultural zoning districts, as well as the need for SSDS areas for the specific development, contribute to the request, along with 2 significant ponds and a blue line stream running east to west. The following page has the staff review of the variance application. The following page has department comments. I'll point out that the County Highway Department is going to confirm all site distances during the construction plan process. Otherwise, there were no real concerns raised. Going on to page 13 is your variance exhibit. You can see the 3 darkened areas, and those are the 3 different requests for the 2 cul-de-sac lengths and the block length. And the following page, on page 14, is an email that we did receive in regards to this. If there's any questions for the staff, I'll be happy to try and answer those. Otherwise, we'll need a public hearing. Thank you, commissioners.
Any questions, commissioners? All right, we're going to open up the public hearing. Does anyone like to speak in favor of V3 2025?
Hello, Brad Weekly, 108 Center Point Drive. Block length and cul-de-sac length are very short for county jobs. I mean, you drive anywhere in the county, most likely you're on a road that doesn't meet this. The reason that it's needed in this case is that we are a septic subdivision. In septic subdivisions, you can't just go out there and grade and cut in roads wherever you need to break up these lot wings. I can't just stub off a cul-de-sac because of the existing grade and the fact that you will be grading into your septic soil areas. As soon as you grade into them, they're ruined. You can't use them. So there's no capability with the way that this land lies to be able to break that up in any way. So it's hard to see on this, but what we're doing is running the ridge. So that's what you have to do with subdivisions in the county. And that's what you see here. And that's why those cul-de-sac lengths are past, it's 750 feet, which is rather short for the county. The 1,800 feet, as you can see, there's that neck that we have to go through with significant grades. And be difficult to branch off immediately just due to it being on the ridge. So there's if that neck weren't there, we would meet the block length. As you can see or see in your packets, departments didn't have any issue with this. When it comes to safety, these matter because if for smaller subdivisions, because you have a lot of houses in there. Well, these are agriculture lots. They're 150 foot wide, over an acre and a half. So not as many people. And so I feel that these lengths should be lengthened in general so that people come up pretty often for variance lengths in the county. So something to look at. But if you have any questions.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, would anyone else like to speak in favor of V3 2025?
Stanley Ross, also here on behalf of the applicants, requesting approval of the variance. Just to echo what Mr. Weekly said, given the topography and the circumstances out there where septic is required and the lot size on these, it is something that is necessary to continue with the use under the current zoning ordinance, which they've not asked to change. So we would ask for your approval on the variance. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to speak in favor of V3 2025? All right, seeing none. Anyone like to speak against V3 2025?
Thank you for hearing me and allowing me to speak. I am not anywhere close to an engineer. I taught second grade. We actually live behind this property.
Okay. Name and address, please.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Judy Powers, my husband Mark. We are at 3000 Martha's Chapel Road. And we are behind this property. I'm not against it. I wanted you to know that. I'm concerned because we have, I call it a little farm 4.6 acres. We have livestock on there, and we depend on our grasses for our livestock 9 months out of the year. And the gentleman that left just now put it well. It's beautiful rural land there, beautiful. And so I'm thankful the lot sizes are larger there. Our concern are two things. The entrance off of Martha's Chapel Road up to these cul-de-sacs. Martha's Chapel Road is already a cut through to South Side, very busy. With this additional, however many houses will be back there, will pour lots of traffic out on Martha's Chapel. And a concern is, we had a deputy speak with us one time, sheriff, and she said there were only 2 deputies assigned to the whole south of the river. That is a concern. Our other concern would be runoff, because we are below this property. As he spoke, it does grade up pretty high behind us. And with all the hard surfaces that will be put in, we would be concerned. Our property goes naturally down to the middle of the pasture, and it carries a lot of water when it rains hard like it recently did. And we have a lot of runoff. And our ditch, which we maintain, carries most of it. But my concern would be, will there be a lot more water? I don't know. Like I say, I'm not an engineer. I don't pretend to be one. So that would be our 2 concerns. It's not that I'm not standing up here against it, and I'm not even sure if this is the right place I should have stood up to speak. But I wanted to voice those concerns before we go any further.
Ms. Powers, and well put for your case here. So this part of the hearing, we're just talking about the length of the road there.
Right.
There'll be another opportunity if you want to in just a couple minutes once we get through, if they allow or don't allow the length
I
of
asked
the road.
my husband if this was the right
It's
time.
all right. Now, and I'll give you one
sorry.
opportunity. Do you have a comment on the length of the road at this time? Otherwise, your comments, you can just kind of reiterate them briefly when we have another opportunity.
Okay. No, I mean, the length of the road is not my concern exactly, other
Okay.
than, and maybe it's for the best. I don't know. We know Thomas B. Nicholson. In fact, he's distantly kin to my husband. So I'm not saying it's awful. I'd rather nothing be back there, but that's just how it's going.
And the engineer is here, Mr. Weekly, behind you there. So if you have any other comments on the road, now's the time.
No,
Otherwise, I encourage
and
you to
I'm
talk
sorry,
to
I
him, or
came
we'll
up
have.
at
No,
this
don't
time.
apologize. No,
That's
it is confusing. We don't get a lot of variances, but it is the way we have to dispose of
Okay,
these.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, would anyone else like to speak against V3 2025, the variance?
I'm Mark Powers, and I live with her. One quick question procedurally, because we don't know. I noticed that this plat is coming up, but the plat is included in the consent agenda, just to wipe them all out and vote on everything.
We
with
do
no
allow,
comments.
yes, we do allow folks, either the planning commission, the staff, or the public, to pull those for other considerations.
Can
So
I do that? at
we
this
will
time?
announce that in about 30 seconds.
Oh,
Yes, sir.
okay. See, I don't know where we're going. I'll play ball with your.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to speak against V3 2025? All right, seeing none, we're gonna move back into regular session,
Do
Commissioners.
you want to, hold on, do you want to
Oh, I'm sorry, rebuttal.
We can, if you have any questions, seems like a lot of the concern will be handled in the next section.
All right, now we're in regular session. Commissioners,
Motion for approval of the variance.
Second.
all right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any against? All right, motion for the variance passes.
All right. What do we want to do about- All right, I'll read the statement into the record, and then we'll see if anything needs to be pulled from consent agenda. All items in this portion of the agenda are to be considered routine and non-controversial by the staff of the Regional Planning Commission, may be approved by one motion. However, a member of the audience, commission, or staff may request an item be removed for separate consideration. Commissioners, the staff will pull S11 2025 Ligon Home Builders because of the failed variance, and we'll take care of that when it comes up. Do you all want to bring S12 up for further consideration, Powers? Yes, okay. Is anyone else here for S9 2025 or S10 2025? Yes, sir. J&N Enterprises off of Tiny Town, Union Camp Road. All right. Anyone for S10, Wellington Fields? All right, commissioners, we can dispose of S10 through the consent agenda, and then we'll go through the other 3 subdivisions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tyndall. Commissioners, case number S10 2025 is a request for preliminary plat approval of Wellington Fields Section 7. The staff recommendation is for approval subject to the 4 conditions listed. Thank you, commissioners.
All righty, commissioners, we have S10 2025 for,
Move for approval.
Second.
all those in favor? Against? All right. S10 2025 passes.
Okay, commissioners, case number S9 2025. The applicant is J&N Enterprises. The subdivision is Anderson Place, Section 5. This is a preliminary plat request. Property is located north of Tiny Town Road, east of Macon Lane, and is connecting Bridgeport Way Road Stub and Union Camp Boulevard Road. Proposed acreage is approximately 14.9 acres, 71 lots. R2A is the zoning, and this is in the city growth portion of the growth plan. If you want to go to page 17, you'll see the aerial overview of the site. Page 18 is the proposed preliminary plat. The recommendation is for approval subject to the two conditions listed: approval of all utility plans by the Office of Chief Utility Engineer, and approval of all grading, drainage, and water quality plans by the City Street Department to include road and sidewalk improvements as required. The department comments are listed below that, and if there's any questions for the staff, I'll be happy to try and answer those.
Move for approval, S9 25.
We need a public hearing, Charlie.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Commissioners, any discussion before we go into public hearing? Questions? All right, we're going to go into public hearing. Would anyone like to speak in favor of S9 2025?
Vernon Weekly, 108 Center Point, engineer for the applicant. I'd be glad to answer any questions as soon as we figure out what they are.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, is there anybody else that would like to speak in favor of S9 2025? All right, seeing none, would anyone like to speak against S9 2025? Please come up, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Ernest Giles. I live in the subdivision on Sandpiper Drive, where I guess this unit is supposed to come and incorporated on Sandpiper, Egret. I live at the cul-de-sac at Egret Drive, and since 2021, they have come in and they have put a sewage drainage in. I had the house built in 2023. I got with the street department, which was Mr. Stewart, on down to Mr. Faust. And what happened, since they put this sewage drain in, what happened, the water backs up, it has nowhere to go. And my question is, who is responsible for that ditch? It was a ditch yard. But since this sewage drain been put in, it's no ditch, the water has nowhere to go. Instead of it going down, it's coming back. And it floods my yard out every time it rains. When I first moved in, it was a ditch yard. Now the ditch is not there because they put the sewage drain in. And I figure now if they're gonna put all these units in, I think 71 plus units, and the way this land is situated, it's gonna become just a flood area where I live, because I live in the cul-de-sac, the last house on Sandpiper Drive. And that is my concern.
All right. What was your name again, Mr.? Your name again?
Ernest Giles, Giles.
Mr. Childs, this application is on the other side of the farm field, on the Barker's Mill side of the farm, not
Okay.
behind you. But I will ask the street department to come up and either give an answer now or talk to you afterward, or get the gas and water department involved. That is not a part of what we're approving today. We're approving this row of homes is on the complete other side of the farm. I understand how the drainage from the farm may be affected one way or another, but that sounds like a local issue behind Sandpiper, but representatives are here today who might be able to answer your question or at least take your concerns back to their office.
Okay. I've been trying since 2021 and haven't got anything done.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right, would anyone else like to speak against S9 2025? All right, seeing none, we'll go back into regular session.
Okay, I'll try again. I apologize for being so quick, but
I like it.
you like it. You want to go eat supper, I know. But I do move for approval based on the staff's recommendation.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? All right, motion passes.
Yes. All right, Commissioners, S11 2025, this was the application of Ligon Home Builders. We don't get this too often, so we had a variance that was turned down, so obviously we cannot approve the plat that is before you. That's not even, there we go, that's the right one. So we either need to defer this, but we do need to unfortunately have a public hearing, but we will defer this case, or we can turn it down, right? We can do one or another. We can either deny it based on it doesn't meet the regulations, or we can defer it a month, give them an opportunity to come back with a revision. But I do think it's worth the public hearing since that was advertised. Keep in mind, if they do bring back revisions, we'll have another public hearing. So your comments can be repeated, or you can keep them till a future opportunity.
All right, Commissioners, any discussion before we go into public hearing? All right, we're going to go into public hearing on S11 2025. Anyone here that would like to speak in favor? Anyone against? Come on up, sir.
Brad Morrow, 2783 Ann Drive. I think you already know where I stand and my reasons for it, so I won't beat that horse anymore, and if it comes back, I'll come back too. What is it, subdivision reg 4.1.2.1, public rights of way have to provide for adequate emergency access. We've got traffic issues, emergency access, and flooding issues. So for all those reasons, I request you just disapprove it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to speak against S11 2025?
Thank you for your time again, Commissioner. I appreciate you. I sent in my comments. You guys know where I stand on this as well, and I'll be back if necessary. Looking at the image that I've sent forward, the 100-year flood easement does overlap. I think it's about 12 of the properties as well as half of the street. I'm not sure how they intend on doing that without filling or adding structure. It doesn't make sense based on what I'm seeing here. And again, I ask you to disapprove it so that they can go back to the drawing board instead of the deferral.
Mr. Cristiano, I did reply to your email the other day with a copy from the street department's email to explain a little more. What you see there is not the final grading, and that would have to happen. None of those buildable areas or the road could be within the 100 years, so they dig out more volume here to add volume up here to balance out where the drainage is and have to add volume to meet the stormwater regulations. So
I understand.
that's the response there, but there's a lot of dirt to move. I do agree with that.
Yes, yeah. Not just the in and out, but mainly the emergency in and out. For the need for the connection through Bell is my main. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. All right, would anyone else like to speak against S11 2025? All right, seeing none, we'll exit public hearing and go into regular session. Commissioners?
I'll make a motion for disapproval based on the variance earlier failing and this plan no longer being able to be done.
Discussion, and I agree with you in a sense. They do have a potential solving something to solve the problem.
Would just be putting a stub road, right?
They'd have to stub to the south and bring that back in.
Right. But if we disapprove, would they still come back with another plan showing that again?
Do they have to wait a year?
Do they have to wait a year?
There is no waiting. They could go for a variance every month if they wanted to. We don't have a special rule. Only on zoning do they have to wait a year. To me, a disapproval and a deferral are very similar. Personally, I would lean toward a deferral for 1 month, and then if they don't do anything next month, go to disapproval. They can stub to the south. That would be one thing. It would still require the variance though so they'd have to show a different plan and still get the variance not to connect. So they still have a lot of legwork to do. But I think the good faith here would be the 1 month deferral, see if they do anything, and then we'll dispose of it next month if we have to. We're still within the 60-day clock, but that's up to you.
Since a beautiful young lady from the city council didn't get a second, I would like to make another motion, or I'll be yielding.
I don't know if there was even time to get a
No,
second.
we can does anybody want to second Ms. Friedman's motion? All right, doesn't look like it, so that motion fails. Commissioners?
I'd make a motion for a 1 month deferral for the property owners to come back with something. Somebody's calling me and it's killing me while I'm doing it. That's my motion, is to make a 1 month deferral.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second for a 1 month deferral on S11-2025. Discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
All right, motion passes for a 1 month deferral on S11-2025.
Okay, Commissioners, our final subdivision case is case number S12-2025. Again, the applicant is Thomas B. LLC. The subdivision is Central Fields and Central Ridge, Section 1 and 2. This was formerly known as Cunningham Fields. It is a preliminary plat request. Went over the location previously, but south of and adjacent to the Antioch Road and Oak Hill Road intersection on the eastern portion of Highway 48, 125.84 acres with 58 proposed lots, zoned ag in the rural area portion of the growth plan. On page 42, you'll see the aerial overview of the site. Page 43 is the proposed preliminary plan. Okay, going back up to the report. The recommendation is for approval subject to the 4 conditions listed. Approval by the County Highway Department of road and drainage plans for drainage structures within the proposed rights-of-way before construction begins on site. Approval of a grading permit by Montgomery County Building and Codes before final plat approval. Approval of all utility plans by the utility district, and final approval of V3 variance request, which did take place. Department comments are listed below. Again, Highway Department indicated some site distance issues do need to be worked out. Some Cunningham Utility District Department comments about what they'll have to do to connect to the water system. Otherwise, there doesn't appear to be any concerns, but if there's any questions for the staff, I'll be happy to try and answer those. Thank you.
Commissioners, any questions? All right, we will go into public hearing. Anyone like to speak in favor of S12-2025?
Brad Weekly Brothers, 108 Centerpoint Drive. I believe we know with discussion typically, I would just say if you have any questions, but I'll approach some of the things we've heard already. As y'all know, but not everyone does, those conditions are what we have to meet after this point. And when the grading plan's listed, that's also drainage calculations. So we'll have to meet the flow requirements and the water quality requirements. We'll also have additional ones to those, such as TDEC, and as well as the site distance. It's not working it out. It's showing the calculations that these are the site distances that work, and where driveway locations need to be if it is tight. But the road location is there based off of site distance already. But it seemed like the main concern was water flow, and that will be looked at and also reviewed by building codes. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Brad, obviously these new roads will be curb and gutter section.
Correct.
Do you know where you're diverting the water? I know it might be a little preliminary, but
Yeah, it's a little early, but there is an existing pond that has some room to actually build up and have detention in the existing area.
but
There's
it's
some tricky-
away from the Powers property.
That gully goes through there. Everything, if you see where that buffer is in the middle, that is basically a possible stream. I know that Blue Line Stream was mentioned. I have not had that confirmed yet. We have to work with TDEC to look into that. That's why it says possible buffer on there. Everything does flow that way.
Okay.
But just like a lot of subdivisions, the whole point would be capture and prior. Still goes the same direction, but your flow must meet, existing flows.
Thank you. That was to help
Okay,
that
okay,
answer, yeah.
sorry. Any other questions?
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to speak in favor of S 12/2025?
Stanley Ross, 308 South Second Street, Mitchell Ross for Coney PLLC for the applicants. Just like to ask you to approve this site plan based on the fact that the conditions are out there. It is a requirement they meet those conditions that are listed in the site plan. Otherwise, the site plan meets all the regulations. Variance has been approved, and we are in the proper zone. So I'd ask that the commission approve the site plan. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to speak in favor of S 12/2025? All right, seeing none, would anyone like to speak against S 12/2025?
Mark Powers, 3,000 Martha's Chapel Road. If you'll look on that plat where he was talking about everything flows down, see the little road, the U-shaped cul-de-sac at the top that y'all have approved? I'm in the upper right-hand corner.
That's Powers property. Yep.
Yes, sir.
exactly that one.
You just pointed to where I live. And if you look at your contour lines, the grade on that property from my property, well, my property starts, there's a ditch that comes down. You can't really see topographically everything. Martha's Chapel is going uphill at that point. At the top of the hill is a co-op. If you're familiar with that area where Old 48 comes out, all the hard surface water comes off from the co-op and the houses on that side, and from the 48 Oak Hill side, comes down in a V and comes right through the middle of my pasture. That road cul-de-sac is on a ridge. There's no way that the water from that street at the top, and the house is built on the north side of that cul-de-sac, will flow to the pond, which is in the middle of that cul-de-sac, unless you can show me how rainwater runs uphill. So my concern is, right now, the natural flow of water is to come down that hill across our pasture, and if you can see that cul-de-sac exits out onto Martha's Chapel Road there, that little strip. The lot right next to him that's there, and I can't remember the lady's name that owns it, but it comes up to our property, there's a low spot. It's an old pond, it's a dry pond until it rains, and it fills up. Right, the other day when it rained so much, it was full of water, because that's the natural flow of the water on the contour. I'm just concerned that they're going to increase the natural flow of water, and my pasture's already eroding from natural flow. I'm taking mitigation steps now. I'm trying to get grass planted, put down straw beds. I'm doing different things to try and stop the erosion from there. My concern with this project, when they put it in, and I've not had anybody really talk to me about it. We just found out about this last week, and happened to find out about it in a conversation with someone else. That's how we found out about this. So what we're trying to find out, and what we want to know, and trying to approach the powers that be, this body or whichever body, we want assurances, and we want to know that there's going to be some engineering done and some consideration for the water flow, natural, just rainfall that comes down the north side of that ridge, because it's flowing straight down on top of me. And if you look at that, the first 3 lots, not the first one when you come in, but the next 3 lots border my lot, my pasture. So I got 3 of those lots behind me. So what we're not hearing and we don't see and we don't, and one reason, I'm not a developer, I'm not a contractor, I'm just an alpaca farmer with animals out there in that pasture. And I depend on them eating that grass. And if it's washing away, they ain't got anything to eat. And it impacts what I do.
Thank you, sir.
So,
Would
that's,
wrap it up, please.
I'm sorry?
We got a 3-minute time limit.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was gonna favor your
That's
word.
all right.
And we're also concerned about the extra flow of traffic on to Martha's Chapel because of that one cul-de-sac and it's a cut-through road now.
We'll see if we can't get the
Big
engineer
issues
up
of water,
here.
I'm sorry.
We'll see if we can't get the engineer up here and address some of your water flow concerns
Okay.
and things like that.
All right.
Would anyone else like to speak against S12 2025? All right, seeing none, Mr. Weekly, would you like to rebut?
I did speak a little too general about the water flow. Yes, those roads are on ridges, so each side of that road will flow in those directions. When it comes to design, we look at all the outfalls though, so that would be included. The main one is down the middle, and then up north, yes, there's some, and then same thing on the south. Everything from that road goes that direct way. We use methods such as diversion ditches, to make sure that it goes in the correct direction, small ponds if needed. Those large lots will actually be majority grass. You know, these are 1.5 acre lots with just single family house on it. We're not multi-developing, but it will be looked at and make sure that that all grading gets approved with the methods that it's needed to direct the water away or slow down.
Mr. Weekly, by
Yes, sir.
law, you're really required to not.
Existing flow is what we have to meet, unless approved by local, but that's different than this. So,
But you have heard Mr. Powers' concerns and you can take them into consideration.
100%, and we can talk after this or as well. All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, we're gonna move out of public hearing and to regular session, commissioners.
I think that and I know the power's concerned, but it pretty well meets all the criteria for us to make a motion for approval, so that's what I'm doing.
Second.
We have a motion and a properly made second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any against? All right, S12 2025 passes.
All right, commissioners, going on to the final section, site plans on your tablets. Similar to the subdivisions, I'll read the statement and we'll see if anything needs to be considered further. All items in this portion of the agenda are to be considered routine and non-controversial by the staff of the Regional Planning Commission and may be approved by one motion. However, a member of the audience, commission, or staff may request an item to be removed for separate consideration. I don't believe staff needs anything off. Commissioners, would you like to consider any site plans individually? Anyone from the public here to consider one of the site plans individually? Going once?
Wait.
We'll have a separate hearing,
I mean,
okay?
I abstain from SR 8, 2025.
Okay. All right, we are not going to pull any of these from the consent agenda. Mr. Parker, please read these into the record.
Thank you, Mr. Tyndall. Our first site review is case number SR 63, 2024. This is the Church of Christ on Riverside Drive development. The staff recommendation is approval subject to the 2 conditions listed. Case number SR 68, 2024, maxed out auto body. Staff recommendation is for approval subject to the 4 conditions listed. Case number SR 7, 2025, Little Hope Townhomes. Staff recommendation is for approval subject to the 3 conditions listed. SR 8, 2025, the Milliot Midtown multifamily. Staff recommendation is for approval subject to the 2 conditions listed. SR 9 is Life Point Church storage, approval with no conditions. Case number SR 11. 2025 is Casey's General Store. Staff recommendation is approval subject to the 4 conditions listed. Case number SR 14, 2025 is P Ridge Park. Office Building and Warehouse. Staff recommendation is for approval subject to the 2 conditions listed. And finally, case number SR 16, 2025, Arbor Ridge Multifamily. Staff recommendation is for approval subject to the 3 conditions listed. Thank you, Commissioners.
All right, Commissioners, any discussion on the consent agenda or a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, consent agenda passes.
Final order of business today before the open public comments is the monthly profit and loss statement through January
Y'all
2025.
did get mine.
We heard it, yep, we got that on the front end. Profit and loss statement through January 2025. I'll be happy to answer any questions or appreciate your approval.
Commissioners, profit and loss statement.
Make a motion for approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, profit and loss passes. All right, public comment period. We have 3 minutes for anybody in the public that wants to come up and speak about anything on their mind.
3 minutes.
Hey, I know you guys are ready to go, but my name's Alan Moser. I live at 122 4th Street. I just have a couple of points of order. I don't think that this body has the authority to defer something indefinitely. You're an advisory body. I think you can defer something for a set period of time. And I think you can recommend to the city council that they defer something indefinitely. But I don't think you have the authority to do that. I also don't think that you have the authority to suspend public comment when something's been advertised after the case has been opened. You could have, as an applicant, you can defer for a case for a month, at the beginning when they call for that. But I don't think the rules were quite followed exactly correctly today, and I know that was just an oversight, not intentional. But I'd like to keep that in mind going forward. I'd also like to ask you to either revise that and fix it, or withdraw the case as the applicant in the instance where that was an issue, if you guys determined it to be an issue. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to speak for 3 minutes? Yes, sir. Come on up.
I don't need 3 minutes, I just have a question. Brad Morrow, 2783 Ann Drive. On the S11 case, so if I understand correctly, it's going back to the owner to redo the plat, resubmit it to this body for another approval, and then...
I'll talk to you after the meeting about their options. But yes.
Okay.
They have another bite, yes.
As far as this body's concerned, how many times can somebody just continually keep coming back, or is there a limit on...
I'll answer all your questions
Okay.
after the meeting.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak?
Can I bring one thing up, Mr. Moser?
Go ahead, Commissioner.
You would prefer for us to have opened that for a public hearing, is what you're saying?
Yeah, or withdraw it as the applicant. But I don't think a deferral indefinitely is within your purview.
Okay.
Or defer it for a specific period of time. So I know when to come back.
I'll get a legal opinion.
Okay.
Anything else, Commissioners? I'll take a motion.
Motion.
Second. To adjourn.
We are adjourned. Thank
Finish
you.
it.